Kia ora, hello, welcome, g'day, and thank you for joining us here on this episode of Dear 21-Year-Old Me. Our guest today is Heidi Farren. Heidi grew up on New Zealand's North Island, and after finishing high school, she moved to beautiful Queenstown, where she studied tourism management. Has called that part of New Zealand home ever since. Having worked in tourism for her entire career in various and guiding and management roles, Heidi was looking for a new challenge, and after a few months of discussion, Altitude Tours was born. Now, I didn't know about Altitude Tours until late last year. In fact, we booked one of their tours to go to Milford Sound when my family were in Queenstown over the last Australia and New Zealand summer. After doing lots of research about the tours, what we got was a fantastic day on a small but comfy bus, great sized bus that had picked us up on time in the middle of Queenstown with one of Altitude Tours' fantastic tour guides, James. And it struck me, sitting back, listening to James throughout the day as he did his commentary and was chatting away to the guests on that long drive down to Milford Sound and then equally another long drive back, that he was interested in us as guests. He was exceptionally proud of the area he lived in and he was engaged throughout the entire tour. He was really someone who was proud to be doing what he was doing, and you could tell he really enjoyed it. And I sat back and I thought, well, how does this company that James works for, how does it create the culture that allows him, for example, to be physically driving a bus, which is not an easy thing to do. It's a long drive, but also providing what was really a full experience in a region, for example, that is so dominated by weather, for example, and therefore it's completely out of people's control. So how do people like this, the James and Heidi's of the world, how are they, when they're on these tours, able to actually maintain interest in their personal engagement with people they've never met? And in all honesty, they're likely to never see again. So when I was putting together this next series of the show, I started researching about Altitude Tours and Heidi. I felt Heidi would be a great fit for this podcast, as I'm always interested in culture, which is such a critical part of any successful organisation. How does she make it all work? How does she keep everyone engaged? How does she actually make the bus drivers and the tour guides, and which James is fantastic, really enthused on a day where it could be raining outside and the guests, they're only going to see Milford Sound likely once. The guests can get a bit cranky. They can't get a helicopter or the light plane back to Queenstown. How does it all work? And why is this company, as it is, so successful? So what I wanted to learn from Heidi, and as we'll hear from Heidi in a moment, was about that positive culture. And that positive culture has been globally recognised. What's it like to be living one of the most stunning places in New Zealand? But before we meet Heidi, let's go back to the year 2014 when she turned 21. Malaysia Airlines 370 en route to Beijing from Kuala Lumpur disappears over the Gulf of Thailand with 239 people on board. The aircraft is presumed to have crashed into the Indian Ocean. In New Zealand, the general election takes place on Saturday, the 20th of September, to determine the membership of the 51st Parliament of New Zealand. John Key's National Party are re-elected with a one-seat increase. It's a big year for sport. The 2014 Commonwealth Games take place in Glasgow. New Zealand win 14 gold, 14 silver and 17 bronze medals, coming sixth in the overall medal tally. In Super Rugby, and long live the Rebels, the New South Wales Waratahs beat the Canterbury Crusaders by a single point to win championships. On the New Zealand singles chart, Happy, which had debuted at number 11 in late December 2013, goes on to number 1 for a total of 15 weeks, breaking the 36-year-long record for most weeks spent at number 1 in New Zealand, previously held by Boney M's Rivers of Babylon. I won't sing it. What wasn't making people happy in 2014 was, get this, I love the internet, I love reading about this, given my fondness for chocolate milk, a shortage of chocolate milk in New Zealand, a special type of chocolate milk. Now, stay with me on this one. Lewis Road Creamery, a boutique New Zealand dairy company in conjunction with New Zealand confectionery firm Whittaker's, this year, 2014, launches a new brand of chocolate milk. Now, initial production totaled 1,000 litres, but reaction to its release was so overwhelming positive that given its richness and creaminess, and so due to that, the milk was so good, due to its popularity nationwide, demand was greater than the quantity supplied. resulting in a shortage that often saw stores sell out of supplies before the end of the morning. Now, folks, this is real. Look it up. This is all primary research I've done. So the shortage prompts local supermarkets and retailers to take extreme measures to secure stock and ensure fair pricing, a bit like COVID and toilet paper here in Melbourne. So according to stuff.co.nz, the New Zealand news website, in some cases, rationing was implemented so as to limit the purchase of 2 bottles per person, and security guards were hired to monitor shoppers and fridges containing chocolate milk. The shortage also resulted in the emergence of, get this, chocolate milk black markets, the article says on Stuff. I will put the link into the show notes, ranging from scalpers attempting to resell bottles on the New Zealand website Trade Me 3 to 4 times their original price to counterfeit chocolate milk production. But mainlanders, it was not said stuff available on the South Island. You could only get it on the North Island. So I guess those wonderful bluff oysters would have had to suffice. I'm not making any of this up. You will be able to read it in the show notes. It's 2014. I never thought I'd talk about chocolate milk shortage in New Zealand. It's 2014, and I love it. When our guest Heidi Farren turned 21. Welcome, Heidi. And did you get to have any of that famous chocolate milk?
I did. So I was living with my brother and his girlfriend at the time, and his girlfriend was obsessed with chocolate milk.
It was a thing, wasn't it, at the time? Yeah, great.
Yeah, they went up to the supermarket like at the minute it opened and got some, and kindly let me share it.
Wow. It's for those of us who don't live, I haven't lived in New Zealand for 20 years, but why was it so special? And I couldn't believe it when I came across all this stuff on LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, on Wikipedia. I thought it was hilarious, but it was actually true. It was a thing.
Yeah, I think it was just, so Whittaker's did a collab with Lewis Road Creamery, and it was probably around the time where Whittaker's just really, their popularity exploded over Cadbury.
Yes.
And then so Whittaker's was already so loved, and then, who doesn't love chocolate milk? So it's a winning combination, really.
Wonderful. I just thought, I do like a good chocolate milk, and I do love New Zealand food. So, and we can talk about our favourite restaurants in Queenstown later on, and the fact that I ate seafood chowder, much to my 2 kids' chagrin, virtually every day of the 8 days we were over there. Let's talk about you, the 21st. What were you doing? What was it like? You've had an interesting, you've done so much so quickly, but let's go, let's rewind back to a little while ago. Tell us about your 21st. What did you get up to? What were you looking forward to? Because I think at the age of 7, we'll come to that, you had already decided what the pathway was going to look like. Let's have a chat about the night.
Yeah, my 21st, I was living in Queenstown. I was just about finished studying adventure tourism.
Right.
And my parents were living in Christchurch at the time, and they came down and they said, we've got a surprise for you. And there was a group of friends, and we were having a fun night. And all of a sudden, my grandmother, who was, I think, 79, turned up. And then my brother, the one who, him and his girlfriend brought chocolate milk. They'd been living in Scotland for a couple of years, and they turned up out of the blue.
Unexpectedly.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So it was a very memorable 21st.
So you actually remember it. Tick. That's good. Good.
Yeah. And I mean, after that, one of my classmates and she was American, and her family were going on holiday to Hawaii when we finished studying, and she invited me along. So for just after my 21st birthday, I went to Hawaii as well, which was pretty epic.
So you've gone from beautiful Queenstown to equally beautiful, I won't say more beautiful, but tropical Hawaii. So that were you looking forward to that? How was that experience?
Yeah, it was amazing. I think, I'd never been to a place like Hawaii before. So it sort of, it blew my mind, actually. It was, we were staying in a resort, and her parents still to this day call me their Kiwi daughter. So they really just treated me like one of their own, and wouldn't let me pay for a thing, which was incredibly kind. But yeah, it was a great way too, because I just finished studying. Literally, I think a week after my 21st birthday was our last week of study. So it was a really great way to sort of celebrate the end of that era and before I started a real job.
Well,
Although,
we'll come to I'd
yeah.
like to go back 14 years even before your 21st. I read about you, I think this is on on the website about you, that how at 7 years of age, you wanted to be self-employed and run your own business. Most kids at 7 wanted to do trampoline or get on the bike but you wanted to be a business person. How did that come about? And was that a kind of wake up one morning and go, "I wanna run my own business," or
I think I was sort of fortunate that I grew up. My parents always had their own businesses
Yep,
my whole life. So I was very much like entrenched in sort of, business. And
great.
literally, I remember in the school holidays when I was 5 years old, particularly around Christmas time,
Mhm.
we would go and mum and dad would go into the business and, I'd be paid. We used to get paid, I think, your age divided by two an hour. So I
That's
remember,
fair. Not
yeah,
sure
so
if that's against child labour laws in New Zealand, but I would
I mean, it was just pocket money, right? But
yeah,
like,
but that's a
so
good way of doing it. That's a good formula. Who needs Excel spreadsheets when it's like age divided by 2? Okay,
yeah, and
great.
I remember like, getting paid about $3 an hour to, stick addresses, on envelopes for mum and dad's business and things like that, but yeah,
That's
so
cool.
I think growing up with, parents who, were not
Yep.
afraid to take risks and, work hard and do their own thing, it was kind of part of my DNA from a young age.
Mm.
And I always thought that I would love to. I guess I was always probably right from a young age. I mean, my father says that I used to, Heidi rhymes with tidy. And from the age of 3 years old, I used to tidy up the house after the rest of the family.
There you
Um,
go.
so I guess I've kind of always been a bit old before my time, perhaps, and um,
And was
naturally took charge.
that's very, very cool. Was that, old world, head on mature head on a young pair of shoulders mentioned at your 21st speeches, or because 'cause you'd obviously moved to Queenstown and, were looking forward to you knew what you wanted to do. Did mum and dad talk about that kind of stuff, or did you even have speeches?
Um, Yeah, I remember dad telling a story about when mum went away. I don't know whether it was on a holiday or a business trip.
Yeah.
When and I was about 7 years old, and apparently I walked into the room and said, "Don't worry, Dad, it's okay. I'll look after you." And then, now, what are you going to wear today?
Right. You're in
Yeah.
charge.
I mean, I obviously don't remember that, but
No.
yeah, dad definitely, mum and dad definitely um, talk about from a young age that I was sort of like to take charge and was a sort of, I guess, a natural leader.
Wonderful. So where did you grow up in the North Island?
And a place called Hamilton,
Okay, yes, the mighty
the
Chiefs.
Tron or the
Yes.
city of the future. Yep, home of the
Yes.
Chiefs.
Yes. Yeah, I've been
Um,
to see rugby many, many years ago in Hamilton,
nice. Yeah, I,
and a nice
it,
city. It's like Auckland without the harbour. How's that?
yeah, yeah. Without as bad a traffic, it was a great place to grow up. It
Yep.
gets a bit of a bad rap, but no, it was a great place to grow up.
Very, very cool. You said in an interview that your dream, and some kids dream of being police officers, some people want to be whatever, doctors. Your dream, this is the quintessential New Zealand dream. I love this. That your dream was to move to Queenstown, ski, and figure the rest out. Very fantastic. Tick. Love that. Walk us through the processes and some of the challenges that you had in achieving that, including, being in a competitive market. And do you still ski?
Yes. Well, yeah, essentially, I was going to go to university. There's
Yep.
not a university in Queenstown, and I sort of realised as I was nearing the end of high school that I was only going to university because that's what I thought I had to do, and actually,
Yeah.
nothing about going to university inspired me.
Right.
So I walked into the kitchen one day and just told Mum that I don't want to go to university, and she said, "Well, are you feeling okay? And if you're not going to university, what are you going to do?" And I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I'm gonna move to Queenstown." She was like, "Okay." well, what are you going to do? I'll figure it out. So yeah, I moved down here when I
I
finished
love it.
school
Yep.
and essentially took a gap year,
Yep.
and just skied and I worked as a nanny and I was pretty sure that I wanted to get into the tourism space. But I thought if I moved to Queenstown and kind of have a gap year and then I'll know for sure after living here for,
Mhm.
a few months if it's where I want to be and what I want to do. And
Yep.
so the following year, I started studying at Queenstown Resort College,
Right.
and did a diploma of adventure tourism management.
Great. Is that right in town, just near the park?
Yeah.
I walked past there many days to get our coffee when I was staying in Queenstown. The
Yeah,
worst
awesome.
places to have to go study is you walk literally down to the foreshore, isn't it? It's only about like a minute's walk to the foreshore. Is that
Yeah,
right? In the beach? Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, you in. Okay. Who needs to go to uni?
yeah, exactly.
And what was
Uh,
that experience like? You're in a really buzzy town with lots of things to do and lots of places to go, and there you were studying. What was the experience like? You moved from Hamilton, well, that's a lovely part. The Waikato's beautiful, but, do you remember flying down to Queenstown for the first time going, "Okay, here I am. This is it"?
yeah, I actually drove down. I did a
Oh, okay,
multi-day road trip,
sweet.
um, because
That's
I
a
had
long
so much.
drive.
Yeah, I sort of made my way down the country and stopped with friends and family along the way. But
Great.
yeah, studying here was amazing. I made lifelong friends. I've got a good, a handful of friends from my class that I'm still really close with today.
Yep.
And ironically, a couple of them left Queenstown and now have moved back to the region,
Ah,
um,
okay.
which is really cool. And some of my classmates have worked for altitude tours over the years as well, which is
Mhm.
pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I think, ultimately studying here, it sort of it was a different experience just coming here on holiday, of course,
Yep.
because
Yep.
you're living here. But I think it gave you a great foot in the door, like a deep understanding um, you know, of how tourism drives the economy here and
Yeah.
what opportunities there are in tourism.
Mhm.
And the college was really good because part of it is you did a paid internship. So,
Ah. So where
yeah,
was
so
yours?
I became a river surfing guide on the Coa River.
Love it.
So, literally swimming down a river on a boogie board with paying customers.
Great, and hoping none of them drowned.
Yeah.
Wow,
I
and how was
I
that? What was that like? Like, had you get in your cold wetsuit every morning and go and pretend like it was the first time you'd ever done it? I mean,
Yeah, to be honest, I just loved it.
yeah,
I think I was maybe 20 at the time and, I was kind of fearless and
yeah,
just even though I knew that I wanted to get into like business and sort of management and leadership down the
yeah,
line,
yeah,
I was, while I was, in my late teens, early 20s, I was really determined that I wanted to just guide and have fun. Um, I look back now and I think, jeepers, I'm not sure that I would, if, I had my time again now, that
yeah.
I'd want to be a river surfing guide again. But it was a lot of fun at the time.
Wonderful. So you've done that, and I'm just thinking my 12-year-old's gonna be on the phone to you tomorrow saying, "Can I have a job when he's 18?" Because I reckon that would be just an awesome lot of fun. Um, and I'm sure you get a lot of people come through the doors going, "Oh, I'd love to do that." How did you go from, you 'cause you it's only like 10 years ago you finished your course, and then you started guiding, and then it's like 3 years later, you started working full-time for Altitude. Um and then 6 weeks later after that, you had your first tour going. So just walk us through, how did you go from
Mhm.
literally finishing your course to running the company? And then we'll talk about, and then hang on, 2 days after that, you acquired Milford Sound Barbecue Bus, which I love the name of. So the you weren't mucking around when you said you wanted to get into management and leadership, were you?
Yeah. So essentially, I'd been guiding for about, I think, 18 months after
Yep.
finishing studying.
Great.
And then my, well, now husband had brought into a water sports business in
Mhm.
Queenstown.
Great.
And on the side of that, they started a bike rental business because
Ah.
we get a lot of wind on the lake here. And so
Yep.
every day that they couldn't kayak aqua bike paddleboard down on the
Yep.
waterfront. They'd send people to the bike shop, and then one of his business partners wanted to sell out of the bike shop. So on when I was 21, I brought 33% of this little bike rental business called Kiwi Sports
Cool.
here in Queenstown. And that was kind of my first taste of actual business ownership and management for myself. So
Hmm.
we only had one staff member and myself running the shop, but it just gave me a really good insight on a small scale into running a business, doing payroll and accounts and all of that.
Wonderful.
And so then we sold that,
Yep.
and then I was looking for what was next. And I saw a wine tour business for sale on Trade Me.
I was on Trade Me. You tell us about that.
Yeah. Wow. So I was scrolling. I knew that I didn't want to go back into like paid role. So I thought I'll just keep an eye on, what businesses there might be for sale. And saw this wine tour business and thought, well, I won't buy that, but I could do that.
Yeah.
And so I sent the link to a mutual friend,
Yep.
to a friend. And
Yep.
then he said, oh, you need to have a coffee with my friend Nigel. And so I literally,
I've heard of Nigel. Nigel on the website, Nigel.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So I had a coffee with Nigel, and it was kind of like a blind business date. Like,
Yep.
just walked into a cafe. He said, I'm the guy at this table with a hat on. And yes, sat down and discussed starting a wine tour business.
Wow. Just like that.
Just like that. So that was December 2016.
Yep.
And then because we'd successfully exited the bike shop, so we'd planned a 3-month trip around the world.
Right.
And then sort of knew that once we got back from that, I'd kick into whatever was next.
Yep.
And so yeah, went on that trip and then got back to New Zealand, and on the 1st of July started working full time as the general manager, and co-founder of Altitude Tours. And then on the 12th of August, 2017, I drove the very first wine tour.
You didn't muck around. I love it. Just, we're going to go and do it. Okay. And away you go. Who came up with the name Altitude?
It was Nigel. We had, yeah,
It's a great name. It's so
it is a great
quintessentially
name.
Queenstown, isn't it? Like, just, if you don't know what I mean, people, and you've never looked at it, go Google Queenstown. Beautiful. But anyway, you go. You're just surrounded by mountains. You're in the mountains.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I guess, where the logo came from, right? And
Yeah.
Altitude is synonymous with Queenstown. And,
Mhm.
one of the best decisions we ever made, and it was intentional, but I don't think at the time we realized like how sort of good that decision was calling ourselves Altitude Tours instead of
Ah.
Altitude Wine Tours.
Right. So was that a conscious thing, or was it just right? Okay. So it allowed you then to expand the product offering, really.
Yeah, it allowed us to diversify out of
Yeah.
wine. Like wine tours was what we started with, but
Right.
um, it meant that we weren't sort of pigeonholed into one type of tour. We could diversify from there.
Okay. Did you have to learn how to drive the bus, or I mean, you were having to do everything. I guess you have to do everything. It's so quintessentially Queenstown. I'll just go down there. I'll learn how to do it, and I'm going to go and run my. I love your story. I think it just resonated so well. And as I said,
Thank you.
I loved. We had a fantastic day. I'm not going to try to fanboy James from your staff too much the entire podcast because it'll embarrass you, it'll embarrass me, and my wife will be mortified. But it's quite no. We had a lovely day. So noted. But did you had to do everything? I guess, didn't you? And you probably still do to an extent.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, we brought these beautiful Mercedes vans, and I flew up to Christchurch to pick the first one up.
Right.
Drove it back to Queenstown,
Right.
and got to Queenstown and went to reverse it on our driveway, and we lived up on a hill overlooking the lake, and realized
Right.
that the van wouldn't fit.
Oh no.
And so it was just like, I just think it's so classic. Like, yeah, we'll just do that, but hadn't actually thought 2 steps ahead.
Where are we going to put the van in?
So yeah, by that stage, luckily, my parents had actually moved to Queenstown, so I called them and said, "Hey, how would you feel about having the altitude tours vehicles living at your house?"
And they
Uh,
said, "Yes, darling, we'd love them. And by
yeah,
the way, that
exactly.
renovation we were going to do is not happening anymore, and we'll just go and knock the back garden out." Well, I'm kidding. I don't know. But they were obviously
Yeah.
helpful, which is great.
Yeah, hugely supportive and helpful, and, I'd get back after driving a tour, and dad would come down and get on the water blaster and help me clean the vehicle, and
Oh,
when we expanded, like, a couple of months later, we had our second van arrive, and so that,
yeah,
we had our first, another full-time employee by that stage, and so
yeah.
I'd get back from driving a tour, and he'd be sitting up on the deck having a beer with dad after they'd cleaned the van together, so yeah,
Right.
it was
Keep
great.
it in the family. I guess it's a family-owned business, so why not? But what was that like? Did you mean, like, were there any what was the competition like? This is 2017, so it's pre-COVID. Was it a specific thing that you and Nigel went, "Okay, this is the gap in the market, and we think we can do A, B, and C because of D, E, and F," or was it a bit of market research or a bit of gut feel? You've obviously been in Queenstown for a while. He's clearly an experienced business person, as I recall from reading your website. So how did that kind of
Mm.
"let's do X" come about?
Yeah, I think, it was just kind of like the right timing. Wine tourism was really starting to explode, and there were a couple of well-established, wine tour operators down here,
Yep.
but, the market's become a lot more saturated since we launched. I think within about a
Right.
year of us launching, there was about another 3 new companies after that. So, it has become a pretty saturated market, and actually one of the biggest challenges was uh, getting space at the cellar doors, because a lot of them,
Right.
are quite small,
Right.
um, and still quite like boutique family run.
Yep.
So they're not sort of built for tourism volume necessarily.
Right, okay. So
Yeah, but
so how did you build those relationships with the wine, the cellar
mm,
door people and the owners? And when you'd been in Queenstown a little while, I guess you I don't know, how long does it take, 20 years to be called a local in Queenstown, or is it a little
yeah.
bit more transient?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not called a local if you go off that, but,
Right.
I think, yeah, it's just about, we went out and met each of the wineries
Yeah.
and, explained what we were trying to do and,
Sweet.
talked about, our vision to become the world's best wine tour, which
Right.
was, the sort of the premise on which it started. And, we were pretty, determined that we wanted to launch. We actually launched, our launch price was more expensive than our competitors, and that was
Ah,
yeah, so that was
okay.
intentional.
Right, okay, let's work through the economics of that. So that because you wanted to become, and I didn't know that. Is that because you wanted to be positioning yourself as a premium product?
Yeah, position
Right.
ourselves as a premium product, and we backed our USPs,
Right.
that we weren't just launching a tour for the sake of it. We were backing
Yep.
that we were bringing something, unique and different to the market.
Yep. And how was that business I know I didn't, I don't wanna go into too much, and if it's commercial in confidence, that, just stop me, but did you and Nigel sit down and go, "Right, what does this customer experience look like from the moment they think about booking all the way through to the email they get, the next day saying thank you?" Or just what was the I'm not gonna use the word journey. What was the process in actually coming up with, "This is the bits, this is what we need to do to provide this overall package"?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think at the very beginning there was a lot of like really in-depth planning and thought, but
Right.
over, over time, obviously that's become a really huge focus as,
Yeah.
we're a very customer-centric organization. And
Yeah.
so where possible, we're trying to improve and add value to the customer experience. But I think initially, to be honest, I was confident that, you know, the research I'd done, the all of the knowledge I had of the region, um, and, my interpersonal skills that I could deliver a good experience.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was kind of winging it in some regards at the same time.
Lovely honesty. That goes to my
Yeah.
next question, and your website's fascinating because it gives, and you've been interviewed a lot, and you've won a lot of awards. I love this, and I think anyone in leadership should listen to this quote about you. Your website talks about your aim is to personalize the ordinary and systemize the extraordinary. That's a cracking phrase. How do you do it? How do you live up to it? And who came up with it? And have you trademarked it?
We haven't trademarked it because
Right.
we
Not
didn't
yet.
come up with it.
Right. Okay. Right.
So Nigel came across this in a previous role.
Right.
And he brought it into the organization. Because initially, it was just me sort of working in the business, and then over time, he came on board part-time and then full-time as
Great.
we grew.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was something that he brought to the table, and it just really resonated with us. So
Right. What does
I
that mean?
guess essentially, anything that is ordinary and sort of considered boring, let's call
Yeah.
it your terms and conditions or your waiver form.
Yep. Right.
How can you personalize that? So we have an iPad, we use a system, and if you actually read the terms and conditions, which I'm assuming you didn't, 'cause
I would
otherwise
have,
you'd know
and
this.
I'm married to someone with a law degree, so if she didn't, I would have. So that's okay.
um, but that they're personalized, and they talk about you're not allowed to drink wine from the bottle in the van,
Right.
or
Right.
if if you read this far, whisper yabba dabba do in your guide's ear, and they'll give you a prize, and so just things like that.
Ah,
That's a really
that's
simple
very cool.
example,
Right.
but yeah, it's just about every touch point within your business, within the customer journey and the customer experience. What can you do to personalize what would normally be quite an ordinary or a tick box experience? How
Right.
can we make that better?
I didn't whisper in James's ear.
Yeah, well, you missed out on getting chocolate. Unlucky.
And if it was British Girls chocolate, I'm kicking myself now too. So,
Yeah.
so that's almost a mantra then for the entire business, isn't it? And we'll come to TripAdvisor in a minute because I want to talk about how you've won all these awards. But has that become almost a foundation stone for the entire way that you and Nigel run the businesses, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wherever possible, that's something that we talk about with our management team, and then
Yeah.
with all of our different teams. What can we do? How can we personalize the ordinary, and then systemize the extraordinary? And we really encourage our guides to give us feedback, and
Mm,
because they're the ones that are delivering the experience, and they're the ones that are
yeah.
actually, at the coal face, and so
Yeah.
they're the best ones to actually provide that feedback and suggestions. And we can't say yes to everything, but where possible, we will.
Two quick questions as a segue into my next lot. Do you do any more time? It's like, do you get out on the bus now, or buses, or not so much now, or what's the go? Do you miss that kind of stuff?
Don't miss the guiding as such,
Right.
just because even from day one, whilst I loved it, um, when you're also trying to, answer emails, do
Yeah.
the accounts,
Yeah.
the HR and everything,
Yeah.
you're sort of not, as soon as the guests start their tasting, I'd be, shooting back out and getting on my emails, and or making phone calls, or,
Yeah.
doing things like that. So it's been quite a long time. To be honest, I haven't driven a tour since pre-COVID,
Right.
because we've sort of been on this rapid growth trajectory.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Um, but we do have a commitment amongst our management team that we will all of the senior management in the organisation need to get on 2 altitude tours a quarter.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
and so that's sort of, we have this commitment that that's what we're going to do. And that's
Right.
to ensure that we are, it's very easy to talk the talk, but
Yeah.
are our team walking the walk?
Yeah. So that means actually getting on the bus for the day down to Milford Sound or
Yep.
or driving it or being just
Being a customer.
right. Oh, okay. So that's how I was gonna ask that. So you essentially almost taste test.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And where possible, we
Mystery
try and
shop,
go and
although you're not.
yeah, miss
Although
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. The
yeah.
guide knows who you are, but, like, where possible, we try and not, let the customers know that
Right. There you go.
so you're just another customer on the tour.
Okay. How many times have you been to Milford Sound? A few?
Yeah, well, actually, it's something that we only, brought into play in the last year because,
Ah, right.
it's kind of it's one of those things that, you can be you can, I've forgotten what I was gonna say, like,
Yep.
the
You're
de
able to expand, I guess, weren't you? Is that a fair so you've got the wine tours.
Mhm.
Post-COVID, was it an opportunity from a business perspective to go, "Right, let's" 'cause there's a pretty quick competitive marketplace, those Milford Sound tours.
So, yeah, that Milford Sound came about by acquiring the Milford Sound barbecue bus, which was,
Ah,
on the
right.
1st of July 2019. So we were 2 years old,
Right.
and we acquired that and brought it in under the Altitude Tours umbrella,
Right. What was the
and
do they actually have oh, it's a stupid question, I'm sorry. Did they have
no,
well,
they did.
they had barbecues on the bus?
Yeah, and they literally would pull over in the national park, and the guide would cook up a barbecue for lunch,
Okay.
which
That's a slight
yeah, like
point of difference, isn't it? You wouldn't wanna start a forest fire I'm being facetious, sorry. I'm sure that wouldn't happen, but okay. So you bought the company and therefore the assets and everything that went with it, and then you've what, honed the offering into what we experience as a family, for example. Is that a fair observation?
yeah, so essentially we actually ended up buying essentially the brand and the goodwill. We didn't buy
Right.
the assets because
Okay.
they were old
Yep.
vans that didn't align with our premium small group tours.
Yep.
And yeah, that's when we brought in Mercedes Sprinters. So essentially, yeah, I mean, Milford Sound is a really competitive market,
Mhm.
but there weren't many and still aren't many options to this day of small group travel down to Milford Sound. And so we knew that, there was always, I guess Milford Sound's a bit like the golden carrot for tours from Queenstown.
Right.
It really is a very sort of lucrative tour, call it, because the
Right.
majority of people that come to Queenstown want to go to Milford Sound.
Yes.
But because it is a competitive market to start from scratch is a lot harder, whereas purchasing a well-established brand that had, a couple of strong distribution channels enabled us
Ah,
to
right.
grow quite quickly.
Okay. Um, which makes a lot of sense. It's easier to build it up than having to start from scratch, as you're saying. So how did
Yeah.
you become I love this. How did you become the operator of the world's best wine tour? And I'm not making that up. That's actually fair income, isn't it?
Yep, it
Okay.
is.
I can people, you can't see Heidi because we're only gonna do the audio. Heidi's beaming about this. All right, let's go. You get your lap of honour, and you get another lap of honour for something you've just talked about I'll get it right, TripAdvisor Traveller's Choice Award. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
How did it all happen? Was it like a gold envelope arrived on an email? And congratulations, by the way. I mean, there must be
Thank you.
hundreds of premium wine tours around the world, and there's you in your Mercedes Sprinter with Nigel and the team. Tell me
Yeah.
about it. Go for your life.
So
Brag, Heidi.
essentially,
You get to do it.
it
You deserve it.
was actually during the COVID pandemic, and
Of
so
course
it
it
was
was.
like it was, I guess, early 2021, I think it was, and
Yeah,
that I think we were out of lockdowns, but there was a lot of rules and regulations, and the borders were closed, and so it was
yeah.
a pretty tough time to be a tourism business, especially that had grown so quickly prior to going into lockdown. Because in order to grow, you got to take on debt and take some risk, and so
Yeah.
then to have the tourism tap turned off was not a lot of fun. But
No.
one day I received an email from TripAdvisor saying that we were an award winner, and they have the annual TripAdvisor Traveller Choice Awards. So kind of
Yep.
just made the assumption it was one of those.
Great.
Forwarded it on to Nigel and the team and didn't really think too much of it. And then I don't know if it was the same day or the next day,
Right.
but Nigel sent me a screenshot going, "Holy shit, have you seen this?"
I love it. Holy
And,
shit.
I hadn't actually clicked through all of the links because it wasn't just like click a link and boom, it's there. It was like
Right.
you had to click through and then go into the category. And,
Ah,
sure enough, once
right.
we clicked the link, then chose the wine tour category, there we were at number 1. Um,
Wow. And I'm sure
yeah.
there was a very positive expletive that went with it. So
Yeah.
was there some lovely, sparkling wine that was opened that night? Yes.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
absolutely. And, it was a tough
Good on
time and
you.
we were a small team, so,
Yeah.
anything that you could celebrate about about we did. So we
Wonderful.
definitely celebrated that one, and it was a great validation,
Yeah.
during, a pretty tough time that, what we've got, what we've been doing works and, we're doing a great job, and one day when the borders reopen, we'll be able to continue on that journey.
And then recently, because we're recording this in late July, but we'll put it online in a couple of months, you've been awarded, and I'll get it right because I want to get it, the TripAdvisor Traveller's Choice Award for 2025, which placed you, yeah, okay, in the top 10% of travel businesses worldwide. Well done, you. Tick. That only happened about an hour ago when we were
Yeah,
recording this.
yeah.
Great, because I saw it on LinkedIn just before we jumped online. Congratulations.
Mm.
Tell us about that.
Thank you. Yeah, so the Traveller's Choice Awards are a great recognition. We haven't had them every year, but
Right.
we have had them uh, on numerous occasions over the last 7 years, and
Hmm.
it's an epic recognition that what you're doing, what our guides are delivering to our customers day in and day out is well received, which is a fantastic reflection on the guides because ultimately, they are the ones that are delivering these experiences
Mm.
to our guests, and these awards are purely based on guest ratings and
Yep.
reviews on TripAdvisor.
How much of that, the social TripAdvisors, the Google reviews, is important for a company like yours? Because it does the marketing for
Really
you to an extent,
important.
doesn't it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, really important. And
Yeah.
I think, in particular, TripAdvisor is really important because, Viator is one of the probably
Yes.
is the world's biggest online travel agent, OTA. And so,
Yeah.
um, if people find us on TripAdvisor, they can then us through Viator. And Viator is, one of our biggest distribution channels, if not the biggest at certain times of the year.
Which I think we did through
You
that.
did.
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
indeed. You did. We did.
I
Because I think
looked
I
I looked you up.
there you go, there you go. And I did a lot of research, and I tell you what, there are a lot of companies, and I'm not just saying that because you're here, but, like, you gotta make your dollars. Do you know, like, we don't go overseas every year, a lot of and we wanted to with the kids hadn't been to New Zealand before, um, and I'd been to Queenstown many, many years ago on a Kentucky and loved it. And yeah, we did our homework and the whole small bus thing, and then, pick us up. We don't have to go down the hill at 6:30. It was like pick us up wherever. It was just, but yeah, we did our homework. I'm sure a lot of people do when you particularly when you're wanting to do a whole bunch of stuff in one place. Uh,
Mm.
and I for one, and I'm sure many other customers read the reviews, and I always start with the worst ones. So, and we'll come to actually that might segue into my next question before we talk about a little bit more about you. Do you actually read the reviews um and the comments, and how do you respond or react to them? And one of the things I was thinking about, and I talked about it in the intro before we got you on, was you can't stop the rain in Milford Sound, but do people get cranky about that kind of stuff? So it's a two-parter. Eh, how do you not react emotionally to some of the reviews which might not be great? The ones that people put in, I'm sure, are great, are fantastic. And then, how do you deal with expectations that are completely out of your control?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I guess to answer the first part, to begin with, used to read every single review, and it
Righto.
it ruined my day when we
Right,
got
okay.
a a bad review.
Right.
It
You're putting
was
all
hard.
this effort in and it's your life really. I mean, like, you've got the husband and the
It
2 boys, um, but
Well,
yeah,
prior, to begin with, I've only had kids in the last,
so
4 years,
yeah,
and so prior to that, like, altitude tours really was my first baby,
yeah,
I lived and breathed it, so,
yeah,
TripAdvisor was an important part of our strategy, because we knew that if we got a lot of reviews, then that would help with, um, help word of mouth, help with brand awareness,
yeah,
and help, grow the distribution as well through the likes of
right,
Vital. So,
yeah.
but we made a commitment to respond to every review, whether it was good or bad, from the get go.
Wow.
And in the early, in probably the first couple of years, it was generally me doing that. Um, so it was a really good opportunity to actually get feedback,
Yeah,
um, and then also make changes where
right,
required. Because,
okay,
you know, I think when you get a bad review, occasionally a bad review like is really unjustified, but often there actually is, some really good feedback that you
right,
can take on board and make positive change as a result of.
okay. Do you have any examples of that? I mean, like, just that you come to mind, you go, "Okay, well, we need to," I don't know, it's your company. What are some of the changes that we wouldn't have noticed as customers that you go, "Okay, well, that's a fair point, we'll have a go at that," or, "No," like, the one I guess coming down to is, "It's raining in Milford Sound, what did you
Yeah.
expect?"
Yeah.
Sorry. Like,
No, totally.
and I lived
I
in
think
Wellington, like, I know rain.
yeah. Yeah, and I think, like, the most important thing is, make customers feel heard. So
Yeah,
acknowledge their
okay.
concerns or their complaint,
Yeah,
and be empathetic to it.
yeah.
Like this, of course, to us, it's going to rain, and we can't control the weather.
No.
But for a lot of people, this might be a trip of a lifetime, and
Yeah,
Milford Sound is a bucket list destination
it
for them,
is.
or doing a wine tour is a really something they've been excited about since they booked their holiday a year ago. And so, it is really important that we do what we can to ensure we're meeting and exceeding those expectations. And
Yeah,
when we don't, yeah, just be honest and apologize and take responsibility. I think is a big one. With
yeah,
our reservations team particularly is irrespective of whether we've made a mistake or not, if you apologize and you make someone feel heard,
yeah.
it's not our fault that the airplane couldn't fly in because the weather was bad and
That's right. So how
they
do you deal
couldn't
with that?
fly
I mean,
out of
that's a
Milford
really good
Sound.
point. I mean, I remember getting some of the people on our tour that we did with your firm flew back,
Yeah,
and it was a bit iffy there, and James was like, "We're just gonna wait another 5 minutes and see if they can," and he was completely in control. It was all fine. But then how do
mm,
it's a sunny day. It was a beautiful sunny day, when we went down, but it was a windy day. So how do you manage those expectations? Is that part of the FAQs on the website or the email?
yeah. It is. It's part of it's part of the terms and conditions. It's part of the
Right.
FAQs. It's
Yeah.
part of the booking, like confirmation emails, and then really, but to manage those expectations, really, that's down to the guide on the day,
Yeah.
because it's up to them to communicate clearly, and we empower them to do that in whatever way suits their personality and the way
Yeah.
that they like to run their tour. But
Sure.
it is really important that the guides do what they can in order to manage the customer's expectations, and naturally people are disappointed, and that's out of our control. But
Yeah.
if you have empathy for that, as the guide, I think it's going to be received a lot better than if you just say, "Well, it's not my fault."
No, and then you've got a grumpy customer for 3.5 hours from Milford Sound back to Queenstown,
Queenstown.
which
Yeah,
didn't
exactly.
happen on that day, and I can't, I think everyone was meant to jump on the plane, went back, and that's fine. So, do you still read some of the reviews?
I do from time to time, but
Right.
honestly, not regularly. We have something called the Smile file in Slack,
Okay. Cool.
which is so we use Slack as our internal messaging,
Great.
company app, and so we post, some really exceptional reviews in there. And then naturally, if there's negative reviews too, they actually get posted in our management Slack channel, so that
Right.
there is some visibility across the board. And then, if there is constructive feedback, the necessary people can take that on board and action it.
Okay. So then, how do you? And we'll keep going. But how do you then embed the systemising the extraordinary into your onboarding of your staff? Because they're the people who are doing your brand ambassadors. They're the people on the, like here I am telling you, but they're it.
Yeah,
Like James was altitude tour that day, not
yeah,
you. No disrespect
exactly.
to you and
Yeah,
Nigel,
no, totally.
because and I remember, I think I put it in the review that I put on. Where should we go where's the best coffee in Queenstown, James? I'll go to that place, and we did, and he was right, and that was fantastic. So it wasn't just
Yeah,
the tour, it was, he loved it. He was, I think, a local guy who'd come back to Queenstown, loved being there, was so passionate. He was talking about the rope burn tracks and all these things, and I'm like, oh, okay, wow. How do you embed that, you know, really great customer experience into someone who's coming into the team? Because it's your brand, it's your
yeah.
reputation at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, first of all, hiring the right people is really important, you know, because, actually one of my lecturers, he had a quote that he just, like, repeated and repeated and repeated, and to
Right.
this day, I still love it, and it's, "Hire for attitude, train for skill."
Very true. Yep.
And so, yeah, like hiring the right people is important. And then it's all about, your induction and your training process. So we have pretty comprehensive, we call them guide Bibles
Okay.
rather than standard operating procedures, because that's a boring health and safety term. We call them
There's
guide
a little bit of a
Bibles. And
rebel in you, isn't there, Heidi? A little bit, not much, but a little bit. You just
yeah.
like to do it your own way, which is great.
Yeah. So we've got the guide Bibles, and we're actually in the process at the moment of developing a quality assurance app. So
Ah,
it's being built, and it'll essentially be like uh, a custom made app for our business.
yeah,
So we have three different brands, and
yeah,
so there'll be one that is for each brand, and
great.
there'll be unique information as part of that, on locations, the tours, and it's AI enabled, so guides can
Ah.
actually, rather than just search what's in the app, you can ask the AI a question as well.
So that will allow them to have the app on the way down it.
Yeah. Because currently, yeah, our guide Bibles obviously are a fantastic resource, but
Yeah,
it's a chunky document that you look at digitally or in printed form. And
yeah,
how does everyone, particularly with the demographic of like our altitude tours guides,
yeah,
everybody is on their phone. So
yeah.
if you can put it in a format that people want to receive it, then it's going to be received better.
Fair enough. Yep. And who doesn't have a phone? And I'm sure
Exactly.
all your team do. Let's have a chat about you. How do you switch off? And how many tennis tournaments have you won in Queenstown? I know Google's a little
How do you
is a
know that?
because
Yeah.
I Google, and like if we were in Queenstown, our kids would never get off the luge. Like that would be
Yeah.
like. So I want to have a chat. We're just going to change the tone up a little bit, and then we'll do more serious stuff. How do you switch off? And I think you've won a couple of the tennis tournaments, and then how do you go on holidays? And are you able just to be a tourist? But it's a
Yeah.
serious question.
I
How do you
mean,
what do you do for fun in Queenstown when you're living there? I mean, it must be fantastic.
Yeah, I love to ski. That's why I moved
Yep.
here. Love to mountain bike on all the trails around Queenstown. I'm more of a trail or a cross country mountain biker, not the hardcore downhill down the
Right.
Skyline gondola. Um,
Oh, that would be scary
and
going down that hill.
yeah, and love to hike around the region,
Yep.
and paddleboard and water ski.
Right.
So yeah, for me, also yoga, tennis, great ways to switch off. Obviously, since having two young kids, it's a lot harder to find the time to do all of those things.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I haven't actually played tennis since I had my kids, but I
Right.
used to play at the local club and
Pretty well, it
you
seems
know,
like, if you're winning a
oh
shoot.
no, not really. I I had good tennis partners and we won doubles competitions as a result, but, one of them was my mum. She's much better at tennis than me, but yeah, I think, ultimately, I we live in Queenstown because we love everything it has to offer and the
Yeah.
lifestyle that it provides, so where possible, try and get out and enjoy that. And then in terms of being a tourist, I think
Yeah.
it is challenging. I'm obviously hypercritical when I'm going into
Yeah.
experiences, because, I'm constantly I'm looking at all the little details,
Yeah.
as opposed to just, experiencing it at face value. But I still do enjoy it.
Okay. Are you able to turn off? I mean, I've had guests who have been, foreign correspondents, journalists, for example. Doug Weller comes to mind, a guy from Australia, you know, others who, and I've asked, how do you switch off? Can't. Like they're watching the TV, for example. He'd be watching the nightly news. This is a long time ago, but and he'll look at, oh, I would have worded that differently. Or are you able to go, oh, hang on,
Yeah.
like,
I
there's 20 things in that customer experience in the last 10 minutes from booking to walking in that I would have done differently? Or do you just go, not my monkey, not my circus, not my monkey kind of thing?
Yeah, I think initially it was a lot harder to switch off, in the first couple of years of business because I
Yeah.
really was living and breathing it and I was across everything. But as you grow, as we've grown, it's not sustainable to continue trying to be across everything and not actually take a break. So
Yeah.
it was sort of something that I sort of had to learn or teach myself quite
Right.
early on was
Yeah.
that in order for me to stay sane and be the best that I could for the business and for for both our staff and our customers
Yeah.
was that I had to be comfortable to delegate and also take a break and switch off.
Has that been a learned thing, or if you had like a business coach or Nigel that's been able to help you with, the balance work, which so many people really, I mean, I know I struggle with in my own association stuff, and has it been a discipline you've really had to focus on, or is it like, right, we're stopping, turn the emails off, it will be there when we come back? And where do you go on holiday?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it has been a learned thing. I think COVID was quite good for it
Yeah,
because,
well, it shut the
you
entire
know
town down, I guess, didn't it? Unfortunately.
yeah, and you kinda had to, and then again,
Yeah,
having kids, like going on maternity leave and all of a sudden,
yeah,
the business is not my first priority, keeping, my newborn baby alive is. So, um, that's
yeah,
obviously changed my perspective for sure, but it's
right.
still, it's still a work in progress. I mean, most nights now, once the kids are asleep, I end up doing some work, but that's because I genuinely do really enjoy it,
Okay.
and I enjoy continuing to learn and grow and evolve, like, personally as well as, the business, you know?
Okay. Um, but it can't be easy. You ever turning the brain off? You're waking up in the middle of the night at 4 o'clock, rolling over, going, I've got to do this, this, and this. And does your husband go, not again? How do you actually, it's
I
quite serious.
do.
How do you mentally turn off?
Yeah, I it's something that I sorry,
Oops, that's okay.
my
Let's try
earpod
that
fell out.
again. How do you, hang on, I'll ask the question. Just, you can answer the question. So,
Yeah, I guess I do struggle, getting to sleep. I sleep brilliantly once I'm asleep, but getting to sleep
right.
does take me quite a lot of time.
Okay.
Um, so I generally, try and read, once I go to bed, and I don't take
Yeah.
my phone into the bedroom,
Right.
because so that I can't. possibly work once I'm in bed.
Right.
Um,
Despite
but
what you might like to do. Just one more email. Just one more email.
yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, I mean, again, I've just had to learn like techniques and skills and to enable me to switch off. And reading a good rom-com novel also always helps, or you know, having having a spa in the sunshine. Sorry, not in the sunshine, with the beautiful stars and the mountains, and
Okay. Officially jealous. Officially jealous.
yeah.
Just a bit more about the company and some of the leadership threads that go through it. In a sector where people and place, and this is so central to the New Zealand ethos, and um,
Mm.
how do you build and sustain a workplace culture that reflects manaakitanga, which is care, hospitality, and respect for others, and kaitakitanga, which is guardianship of the environment and community? How do you build those really important themes into the business and then reflect that in the customer offering?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think we we have always been a very people-centric organization, and then sort of as we grew and matured, we then created pretty distinct vision, mission, and values. And so I think, when you're value centric, and if you have everybody across the organization, whether they're cleaning the vans at 10 o'clock at night, or,
Yeah.
they're out pounding the streets selling to the local hotels, or, it's the guide, it's James that picked you up at,
Yeah.
7:15 in the morning to go to
That's right.
Milford Sound.
Yeah.
Um, if you have a strong values led organization, and people enjoy turning up to work and enjoy what they're doing and are happy,
Yeah.
then that's going to be reflected in the experience that they can then give the organization, their clients.
Yeah.
And I think, that's something I've sort of I've always been a big believer that our people and our more important than our bottom line, because without your people, there is no
The
bottom
bottom
line.
line. No, that's true.
Um, and our guides are actually the most important people in our organization, because if they're not giving exceptional experiences
Yeah.
day in and day out,
Yeah.
then we don't have a successful business.
No. No, that's true. And with respect to Milford Sound, it could be a very rainy day and a long drive. And it's
Exactly.
insert name of Guy James or one of the other great team you've got there who you go away and remember. And no, James, we are not doing any of this. He's, I think, done all those walks, and he was telling us about it on the way back. I'm like, you are one fit dude. My wife's like, what do you reckon? I'm like, I think it was the Roadburn track that's the hard one. I can't remember anyway. And I'm like, not a chance.
No.
He's done
Yeah.
it a few times. And I guess that then your point that you raised about working with local businesses, how do you do that in such a competitive environment? Because you've got, without being rude, it's a tough market, it's a small market, it's the economy in Australia, for example, is slowing. I think it is a bit too, like the tourist
Yeah.
dollar, you are dependent, here I am telling you, you are dependent as a town and a region and as a firm on external factors. So then how do you work with your competitors to make sure that, Queenstown stays as positive as it possibly can? How did you go through, and then my second question, is what was it like in COVID? Because that would have been, like, terrible for you all. It was terrible for everyone,
Yeah.
but it was for a resort town, wow.
Mm.
So maybe let's start with
Yeah.
that one. What was it like COVID? We got locked in. You still had the
Yeah.
mountains.
Yeah. COVID was incredibly tough. I mean, we literally, we had grown from me in a van to uh, 16 vehicles and about 40 staff in
Wow.
2.5 years when COVID hit. And so, in order to, we'd also acquired two businesses in that time, and one of the businesses, Black NZ, which is one of our brands
Yep.
that we still operate today. that was 99% international market, and we purchased it on the 1st of November 2019 and went
Oh,
into
no.
lockdown,
6
less than
months.
5 months later.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
so yeah, it was incredibly challenging. But do you know what? In some ways,
Yeah.
which, this is, I guess, controversial, but in some ways, COVID was actually the making of our organization
Right, okay.
because we had grown so quickly and we were on, this crazy trajectory
Yeah.
that um, if it had have continued, it would have been really hard, I believe, to keep sort of the DNA, which was, how do we be innovative and how do we ensure that we're, giving the customers experience as much attention as possible, like
Right.
from woe to go.
Okay.
Um, and when you're scaling and going through sort of, double, triple digit growth year on year, it's pretty
Mm.
hard to keep up.
Yeah. You're
So
almost
COVID
building the
was
plane while you're trying to fly it, which
exactly,
is not
yeah,
a criticism of you, but you don't wanna yeah. So that made you slow down COVID. Is that a fair observation? It would have had to.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
financially, it was really tough, of
Yeah.
course, but from a like a business perspective, it made us stop and kind of almost reset. And off the back of that, we set a new strategy, and we continued through COVID to work on growing our distribution
Mm.
channels and growing and improving our product offering. Because we
Right.
were really confident that when the borders reopened, things were going to go really well again.
Right.
So we wanted to ensure that we were really well positioned when they did. And, you know, um, Queenstown in itself did suffer a lot, but there was
Yeah.
also opportunity that came off the back of that. So
Right.
we partnered with a boat company in Milford, so Mitre Peak Cruises, who you may have gone with when you were down there. And so,
The
prior
scones
to
were
COVID.
fantastic.
Oh, good.
I was quite
Um,
serious. It's all about the food.
yeah,
Scenery was
no,
lovely,
you
the
did.
food was good. No, I remember the scones. The scones were lovely and warm.
Epic. I love that. Um, but yeah, so, they prior to COVID, they were driving their own vans into to Milford Sound. And so during COVID, we, spoke to them and it was like, well, hey, rather than compete against each other when you know, there's such limited demand, how about you feed our van and we'll feed your boat?
Yeah.
And still to this day, we have that partnership with them where,
Yep.
we are their transport provider, feeding their boat. And so, there was lots of examples like that. But I think to answer your point about, how you go about it in a competitive environment like Queenstown, I mean,
Yeah.
essentially, you're a competitor to every um, activity or
That's
tour.
right. Yeah. Yep.
So, there's no
Yeah.
point in ostracizing yourself against your
No.
competitors because everybody's a competitor. Sure, we have direct competitors in each of our sort of tours that we offer, our core tours or our core businesses. But essentially, where we're quite unique is that altitude tours, we don't own the destination on any of our tours.
No. No.
We
Well, you don't,
only,
do you? No, you don't.
no, we only control the journey. So,
Yes.
for us, it's about making the journey
Wow.
as amazing as possible, but also we have to have really good relationships with, all of the third party suppliers that we work with because we're relying on them to deliver a large portion of our customers' experience.
That's right. So if the boat breaks down, that's not on you. So you're not responsible, but you'd be held you're not account yeah. Wow. So how do you have those? Do
Yeah.
you have to have those occasionally tough conversations that you get a trip advisor that says the cup of tea was rubbish? And then
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful, you've got so much, um, you really have to really believe and have faith in your partners then, don't you? Your destination partners. So what happens if something doesn't go right? How do you have those candid and hopefully constructive conversations if you've had to.
Yeah. I mean, since I'm actually no longer the general manager, so, we
Right.
have a
Sorry.
when I went on no, that's okay. When I went on maternity leave, to have my second child,
Yeah.
um, I resigned as general manager because it was sort of the right time to hand over the reins and give get a fresh perspective and someone new in.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, it's up to him now, Graham,
Right.
to
Lucky
have
you,
those
Graham.
conversations.
Right.
Yeah.
But has that happened in the
Um,
past where you've gone, oh, it
yeah.
hasn't clicked or, you know, whatever? And then how do you have that? I mean, in the theory, you've got to sort of, how do you have those chats if you have to?
Yeah, I think it's just about maintaining a really good partnership and relationship with
Yeah.
all of your suppliers. We try and have annual or biannual meetings, and
Great.
as sort of the business has matured, we've started actually having proper annual contracts with suppliers that we work with,
Right.
so that they can't because we there's examples where overnight literally a supplier would double their tasting fee charge to us, and with tourism, you're setting rates often 18 months in advance
That's
because
right.
they're
Yeah.
released worldwide. And so,
Yeah.
it got into this situation where, we can't just continue to absorb these costs at no notice.
No.
Um, yeah.
So is that a common thing then that you now have to put in place those contracts, um, and make sure that everything's just not done too formally, but done with an understanding that we're all in business and this is just a commercial arrangement?
Yeah, definitely. And also, there's an element of that there's like a service expectation.
Yeah.
So that, and it's really important. I think like everything, this is internally and externally. It's important that you don't just pass on the negative feedback. You've got to
Yeah.
celebrate the positive feedback too. So
Yep.
by sharing, by um, contacting and sharing, I guess, sharing in the good times, then it makes it easier to approach um, the conversations when things aren't going as well, or
Yep.
there's negative feedback that needs addressing.
And in terms of that relationship you then have as an established business leader in your own right in Queenstown, do you have a group of people that get together and talk about how things could be done differently? Or, I mean, you're all, frenemies to an extent. You've been down there for, what are we, over nearly 10 years plus. Have you, how does it all work?
Yeah,
You
I think.
live
I
in
mean, there's
the playground that you work in, really, don't you?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's some wonderful groups and industry bodies down here. So, like Destination Queenstown, which is the RTO, so Regional
Yep.
Tourism Office down here, they do a fantastic job um, of sort of being the voice for the operators.
Great.
And also, the Chamber of Commerce here in Queenstown do a fantastic job of like of being a voice for the business community, which is not just tourism, and
No,
that's
no.
important to remember.
Yes, that's true.
But they hold B, BA5 events monthly, so business after five, and that's just good networking
Great.
functions. And kind of over time, you build your network and you meet other business leaders or business owners, and so there is a good spirit of like sort of collaboration and helping each other out. The majority of the time here in Queenstown.
The majority of it. Because I guess you've also, yeah, that's great. You're not just, and I think that's an important point that you raise. You're not just a one-trick pony town, are you? It's not just tourism because there's a whole bunch of other services that go around the fact that it is a resort town. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah, that's a really, really important point. Having lived in Canberra where it's not just the public service town, there's a whole bunch of ancillary services. Quick fire questions for you before we let you go to bed because it's probably a cup of tea time with you without being disrespectful. Where's your go-to place for coffee? You're allowed to kind of have some favourites. So, because we love staying over in Queenstown. Where's your go-to place for coffee? What's your favourite restaurant in Queenstown? And what's your favourite thing to do?
Great questions. Yonder would be my go-to in town for coffee.
Okay, great.
Um, Blue Canoe, the date night dinner.
Okay, great.
Absolutely love their food. Eric's Fish and Chips for takeaways. Can't beat good fish and chips.
And I
Little
and you can keep
Blackwood
saying fish
for a
and chips
wine.
all the way time you want to. I love the accent. Go on, sorry.
No, that's cool. Little Blackwood for wine and cocktails.
Yes.
That'd be my fave go-tos. And then in terms of what I love to do,
Yeah,
honestly, my favorite thing to do is ski.
yeah.
And so in the winter, I love to ski. Although I broke my leg really badly skiing last year.
Oh,
And yeah, I've just had my second surgery. So I haven't skied this year, but the surgeon is fairly positive I'll be able to ski again next year.
oh, right. Is that a Queenstown? I'm being facetious and not just mistaking a little bit. Um, is that not a quintessentially Queenstown meme? You know, I go, I'm a tourism operator, I break my leg skiing, and how were you looked after? Did they have to chop you off the ski fields, or what happened?
I
They
mean, to be honest, I should have been chopped off the ski field, but I don't. The doctor didn't realize the seriousness of my
right,
injury.
okay.
But yeah, I ended up being spending a night in the small Queenstown hospital here, and then being in an ambulance down to Invercargill for surgery because
Ooh,
Queenstown's got a very basically Queenstown has a hospital that was built for a population of 4,000 people,
right.
and
And it ain't
its
no more
population.
4,000. What's it now? A lot
Yeah, I
more.
think the population's probably around 40. Oh no, eight. I actually don't know. 50,000 maybe
Sorry.
permanent residents, but
I'll go
then
look on Queenstown, the district council website, we'll put it in there. But that's a good point
yeah,
about like, we went up to, the other end of the lake, and I should know that little town right at the other end of the lake,
Glenorchy.
Glenorchy, beautiful. Yep, had a pie, you know, and a look round and took the quintessential photo. You wouldn't it and it struck me as like that was a 45-minute drive along the lake, which was not a hard drive, but it wasn't, it wasn't like just on the freeway. How did this it just seems to me that it can be quite there's isolation and there's isolation, and Glenorchy was definitely not the end of the road kind of thing. So how do you living in that kind of environment, not in a negative sense, where if you do get sick, it's okay, we've got to go to Queenstown. And then Invercargill's not a short drive either, isn't it? Because that's what,
Yeah.
a couple of hours drive. So,
Yeah, it's Queenstown is in desperate need of a proper hospital,
right.
because ultimately not only is there the permanent population, but there's then, a couple of million tourists every year and,
Yeah.
the tourists every day get sick or break bones and
Yeah.
so yeah, the system, all of the infrastructure and the resources here are really well behind. But I mean, even a good example is, 31 hours deep into labour with my first child, I was helicoptered from Queenstown to Invercargill because
Wow.
they in Queenstown, the maternity unit can't do that. All you can have is gas and air. So if you need any further support or intervention, you have to be transferred down to Invercargill or Dunedin.
Right. Okay. That puts things into perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, there you go. Whoever the local member is for the Lakes District, and I don't know, there you go.
Joseph Mooney,
Right.
MP.
Right.
Yeah.
There you
Sort it
go.
out, would you?
There you go. Heidi has spoken. No, it's an important point, and it just struck me as we were up at Glenorchy that day. I think you reminded me of that little town. But even the people who live in Milford Sound themselves, because there's a Milford Sound village, obviously, and if they get sick, it's a long way to Te now, and a long way from Te
Yeah.
now to Queenstown, and then and yeah, I think people in major metro cities like where we are here in Melbourne forget that. Let's wrap it up. You've won company awards. You've been recognised as a leader in industry, you live in the dream. What does it all mean? What is it? What are you most proud of?
Well, I think I'm most proud of like what we've created and,
Yeah,
it's not just down to me. Obviously, we've got a great team around us. My co-founder and business partner Nigel has been an integral part of that too. And
yep,
really, uh, yeah, I'm incredibly proud. I think if I said to my 21-year-old self,
yeah.
in 10 years this is where you'll be, there's no way I would have thought that that was possible. But it just shows that
Yeah,
when you're open to possibility and you're not willing to take a risk. Sorry, you are willing to take a
Yeah.
risk and give things a go. And also nothing substitutes hard work. It is.
Yeah.
It has taken a lot of hard work and dedication, but yeah, it's been a pretty wonderful journey.
And you really love what you do. You really love the company.
Yeah, I do. I love it. I'm passionate about it. I love our team, and I love this region. And so, how epic is it that we get to showcase it
Yeah.
to the world
Yeah.
each day?
And it is a beautiful part of the world. So what's next for Heidi, the family and the team? A little bit less skiing perhaps for
Yeah,
you? Wow. You're getting sick of
yeah,
choppers now? You've been on more helicopters than I think most people would have been in a lifetime, and probably not the ones you wanted to be on. But in all
yeah.
seriousness, where to from here for you folk?
Yeah, well, I mean, in the last year, I've spent 6 months of it on crutches. So
Right, okay.
personally, it's about rehabbing the injury,
Yeah,
and also, spending time with my family, my 18-month-old and 3.5-year-old.
great.
But for the business, we've got a couple of really exciting projects in the works. I mean, continue with what we're currently doing,
Yeah.
um, and then we are launching Milford Business Class from
Ah,
1 October, which is a joint venture product with Real NZ. So,
great.
yeah, that's gonna be a whole 'nother step up and another level of experience, above and beyond what our current Milford tours are.
Wow. Okay. And has that been in the drawing on the cards for a while or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been in the works for sort of a year to 18 months now, and, yeah, we're launching that in 1 October, so we've got 3 vehicles, custom built glass roof Mercedes Sprinters on the water from the UK as we speak, for that tour. And then the other project, just a little project
yeah,
that's in the
just a little
works
one. Right.
is altitude hot pools.
Okay. Right. You had me at altitude. Let's talk about the hot pools. All these links will be in the show notes, folks. So you can, you can tourism out on the show notes. Tell us about altitude hot pools. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah. So we're currently still in the resource consent process, but I'm sure you
Right.
will have heard of the onsen hot pools here
Yes,
in
it.
Queenstown.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the most Instagram locations in town. And so, yeah, there's a massive demand for hot pools around the region, and so we are doing a joint venture project with a fourth generation uh, family, big landowner in the region, and in the
Great.
hills, sort of above Frankton, out where the airport is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that way. Yep.
We are building a hot pool project on the side of the hill with stunning views out towards Coronet Peak and beyond.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, you
you'll
can
have to
eat.
come back
Oh
in a
well,
couple of
don't twit.
years, sample
Yeah.
those.
Oh, look, I would go. I loved it. I loved living in New Zealand, and I thought Queenstown was a beautiful place to live. And um, we would, yeah, that's a conversation for my wife and I. Another conversation. So you talked it, and I think that's fantastic. That's stuff that really. So that you keep innovating, don't you? You just have it. I shouldn't say just. I get the impression for you. There's always, yeah, we've got this. What's next? Is that a fair right? Yeah. There's a
Yeah, they kind of all, I mean, there always has been to date. I'd like to think that it'll get to a
right.
time, in the future where maybe we just sit with
Right.
what we're at and continue refining and improving what we've got rather than what's the next thing. But
Yeah.
hey, you never know.
So how do you make sure that when you've got an idea or one of the other teams got an idea, how do you go from idea to execution? And what's some of the processes and that you put in place with Nigel and the team to make sure that you have that all sorted?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's about relying, like, sort of, you go through your team and that we sort of divide and conquer. And so generally,
I love it.
when you, yeah, generally when you're dividing, it's based on people's strengths and skill set,
Yeah,
and also their capacity. So it's dependent on, the time. And for example, in the peak season, our operational team are just like flat out and don't have the capacity for anything else.
Right.
But then our commercial team, the sales and marketing side, have more capacity because a lot of their work is done leading into the peak season.
Right.
So yeah, it's about, first of all, we're always open to ideas.
Yeah.
So, we foster a culture of, amongst the team of like being innovative and
Yeah.
wanting fresh ideas. And so, and it's actually a lot of fun brainstorming how something's going to work. But,
Yeah.
in general, opportunities, either we see something for sale or someone's talks to us about the opportunity,
Yeah.
or, it's an idea, that is born. And yeah, Nigel, you know, uh, our business partnership has worked really well because we have very different strengths, and
Yeah.
his is he's very much an ideas man, and that business development and that sales and marketing, like commercial
Mm,
piece, and the brand and growing the brand and the brand awareness.
yeah.
And my strengths are sort of on the operational and logistics side, and the accounts too. So making sure that we can fund it.
You do like an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, exactly. I love an
That's good.
Excel spreadsheet.
So taking everything into account so far, and again, Heidi, congratulations. Like, yeah, just and officially jealous, like living in Queenstown. How cool would that be? I do
Thank you
actually have,
so
no
much.
one can see, I do have my yeah, nah, maybe. Yeah, what's it called? Yeah, nah, all good hoodie, which you can't, I'm not sure if you can see that. Anyway,
Yeah, I
um,
can.
w-
With a sheep on it. Love
with the
it.
sheep and caffeinated kiwi, whoever came up with that, adorns our house with at least a mug, um, and a couple of tea towels. So, we did enjoy the shopping experience, in Queenstown, and I know I'm not a brand ambassador for either Altitude Tours or Queenstown or Destination New Zealand yet, but in all seriousness, what would you, in a sentence or two, what would your 21-year-old self say to you today? And then to close off, Heidi, what would you say to your 21-year-old self?
Yeah. I think my 21-year-old self would say to me, "I'm so proud of you, yeah, and what you've achieved." And I think, I'd say to my 21-year-old self is, "You're capable of more than you know. Um,
I love that.
Dream big, but also most importantly, enjoy the journey."
Mm. And maybe not go skiing that day.
Yeah. Don't chase after your brother and try and keep up with him.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Because you're not competitive at all.
Yeah.
And on a quick note, referencing back to one of the things that I really, really warmed to, where are the buses now? I guess not at mum and dad's house anymore.
No.
No.
So they were at mum and dad's for about a year, and
Yeah.
then, we brought our first house here in Queenstown, and they lived in the cul-de-sac outside our house, um,
Right.
for about maybe 6 months, and, the office was my dining room table,
Wow.
and then, and I think maybe late 2018, we got our first office, in Queenstown, and then sort of we've outgrown a couple of offices, and we're just in the process of moving,
Okay.
in the next couple of months, because once again we've sort of outgrown where we are now, because this summer, across our group of businesses, so
Yeah.
we actually have Tourism Innovation Group as our
TIG.
overarching,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
TIG, yeah,
Yeah.
and so we have 3 business units under TIG, and, this summer we'll have over 100 staff and over 40 vehicles.
Wow. So how does that place you very quickly in terms of size of business, as a locally owned business in Queensland? That would be one of the bigger ones, I would have thought, or just, I guess, though, the shot over jet folk, and I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, there's not a huge amount of independently owned, large tourism businesses in Queenstown, but
right.
yeah, we're certainly not on the large scale. I'd say we're sort of on
Okay.
the medium scale, but,
Yeah.
continuing to grow, so who knows where we may be in a few years.
Wonderful. Heidi, congratulations and thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that, like you didn't know me, and I think I messaged you on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, you don't know who I am, but we had a nice day and had a great day." Uh, I'm still not doing rope burn track though, James. And no, well, I appreciate your time. And then as I researched a lot about you, like you've built this thing with you and Nigel and the team from scratch, and COVID came along, and I was really reflecting on that, going, oh, that would have just like it was. No one enjoyed that. Anyone, but us here in Melbourne, we were locked down for that couple of years, and then I thought, wow, what did that mean for a town like that's mum and dad aren't working and the kids are going to school. It just would have been really, really hard every day, and not being able to go to the loosh. I'm being a little bit smart ass about that, but to see Queenstown humming as it was when we were there in December and January was fantastic. And as someone who I hope it comes through this chat, is very respectful of New Zealand and the culture that you have over there, and the pure NZ brand, which is fantastic. I think you and the team have really lived that. And yeah, James, thank you for all these wonderful suggestions of where to go and eat, because it's those little things that you go away and go, we did the tour, and the guy said to go here, 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 and it was fantastic. So congratulations. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to seeing the new company come on board, or the premium, it's called premium, that have another street for you, the premium
Milford Business Class.
Milford Business Class.
Yep.
And then when you get the
Altitude hot pools.
the altitude hot pools, yeah, okay, wow. We'll be putting all those things up. And very, very sincerely, thank you so much for joining us on Dear 21-Year-Old Me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Oh, I love that. What an absolute delight Heidi Farren is. And thank you so much, Heidi, for taking your time out in your evening, no less, to have a chat to me. Really, really appreciated that. Some takeouts there. Really, Heidi's belief, wanting to move to Queenstown, ski, she obviously has, and then just see where it landed her, and doing that course and being able to back herself, saying to mum and dad, I don't want to go to university. And you know what? You don't have to go to university, obviously. I mean, there are wonderful jobs that don't require university education. I think sometimes we forget that. And backing herself and going, I'm going to do this. And then, starting out, doing the tour guiding, working out how to be a business person, and progressing from there. That New Zealand want to do, get it done, crack on, without a heck of a lot of fuss attitude, which I love and I really warmed to when I lived in Wellington, still really resonated with me. And I think that came out in Heidi's thoughts and her reflections. The other point I wanted to remember and remind people of was the phrase that her business partner, Nigel, has brought into that business. And again, it's on the website, and I just want to quote it again. They focus on personalizing the ordinary and systemizing the extraordinary. And I think whatever we do, in whatever role we're in, whatever type of organization we're in, how do you personalize the ordinary and systemize the extraordinary? And that's something I'll go away and reflect upon as well, in not only my role, but in other roles as well. And what a great sense of humor. I think that was something else I took away from that chat with Heidi. Like it's a tough gig running a small business. It really is. Obviously, COVID had a huge impact on many, many communities here in Australia and New Zealand, around the world, and we don't want to forget that. But for a resort region like Queenstown and the Lakes District down there, but then Heidi was able to turn that around with the team and go, well, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? And then using that period of time to really step back and reflect, and then do that planning, which has obviously led to the business going so well. You can check all the links for Altitude Tours, Tourism Innovation Group, all of them. I will put them in the show notes. And if you are doing a tour, and again, none of this is paid. Like, this is not a commercial relationship. We paid to do the tour with Altitude that day in Queenstown. I was really impressed. So I just wanted to reach out and learn behind the scenes. How do you get that customer experience so well embedded into the culture of an organization, that DNA of expecting excellence all the time? And that's what I got from Heidi, and I hope that you got that too. So thank you so much, Heidi. Congratulations to you, your family, Nigel, and all the team, and really did appreciate your time. Wherever you are around the world, thank you so much. To Curse Kids and the Pooch, as always, thank you. Look forward to having you join us next time on Dear 21-Year-Old Me. Go well, stay well, go the Rebels, go the Hurricanes. Take care. Bye for now.
Thanks for joining us today. For more episodes and links, visit dear21yearoldme.com. And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts.